Welcome to the Courage to Live podcast. My name is Josh Bitsko, and I'm a retired police captain with 24 years of experience out of Las Vegas. Currently, I travel the country and I teach people about courage, resilience, and leadership. Joined by my co-host and wife, Jenna.
Hi.
So we record these a little in advance. So right now, today is
Sweet
March Madness.
16.
Yeah, is it Sweet 16 that's starting?
Yes.
And I am in last place in our family. Well,
No, you're
no,
not.
Jack's one behind me.
Yeah.
But
No,
you,
yeah,
Kate, and Max are all beating me.
correct.
And I don't like it. Because this is the first year that I didn't beat you or your brother, Jordan.
Mhm.
Um, and
We are in a pool of 75 people,
Mhm.
and Max is in 11th place, and I'm down in 20th, I think.
Yeah, there you were in like second there for a
I
minute.
was, I was, I was riding high.
Well,
Been chasing that high ever since.
there's still a lot of points to be
It's
made
true.
because I need Iowa State to go all the way, but they
Same.
lost their best player. But
hmm
you took Michigan State, right?
I did.
But you still need
Against,
Iowa State to go far.
yes.
So
We need Duke to lose. Everyone that is a Duke fan that's listening to this podcast, you can go ahead and just unsubscribe.
don't say that. We love all fans,
Just
Duke or
kidding.
otherwise.
Um, we need Arizona to lose.
Mm-hmm.
We basically need all the big teams to go down.
Yeah.
And it's possible this year, I feel.
Are we going to bet again on any games?
I don't want to talk about it.
You get real stressed when we bet on games.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
We're from Las Vegas.
I know.
I need you to lock in.
We are absolutely not betting on a Michigan State game
No.
because I'm going to be stressed enough.
Yeah.
I have them winning the whole thing. This is the year they're going to do it.
This is our year.
This is their year.
And Coach Izzo this is his 28th year in the tournament or something crazy like that.
Good for him.
Yeah. I like Izzo.
I do too. All right. What are we talking about today?
Well, it kind of goes along with sports betting, trusting your intuition, and really not talking yourself out of something that's happening in front of you, I think is a good way to put it.
Yes.
So yeah, we were recently doing a active threat live active shooter exercise in another state, but it was at a very large area, a very large building. And there was role players, officers, fire department, like everybody was involved in this training. And it starts with just like gunshots, right? In reality, you're at work, you're at a special event, and now there's gunshots, and the officers have to respond to that. And because of the size of the building, there was a little bit of hesitation there. Am I hearing gunshots? And the initial, when this happened, those officers did respond and go engage who they're supposed to engage and, do exactly what they were supposed to do in the training. But then you have another part where you have two officers that are similar situation that are hearing gunshots and they're like talking to each other about it. And it felt like almost they were talking themselves out of what they were hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And in reality, when that kind of stuff happens, I've had that happen to me. Like I've been on barricades where someone starts shooting, and it's like, did I just hear that? Was that a gunshot? And there's always that second of hesitation. If you watch the body camera from 1 October, those first couple initial shots, you can even see the crowd thinking, was that firecrackers? Was that gunshots? I mean, there's always going to be that like delay, that lag time, and what is happening in front of me, and then
trying to process it.
yeah, you're processing what's happening, and then you have to make a decision. And in law enforcement or for any first responder, you have to make that decision fast. And we saw during this training, we saw examples of officers that heard gunshots and acted, and then you had what really felt like, again, talking yourself out of what you're actually experiencing in front of you. And it's like, was that gunshots? I don't know. And then it wasn't reported. And then you have to, keep doing the task that they're doing at hand and not changing direction because of what's happening in front of them or what they're hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And, that is a common thing that happens in policing, in my experience. I remember when I was a young cop, and it was a whole squad of us all from the same academy. And I was a good cop. I was out there working and trying, but I was 21, and there was a cop a little bit older, same experience. I'd never been a cop before, but he was always getting guns off the street, always getting drugs, and I remember having to sit down and having a conversation with him. And I mean, I knew him my whole career. We were friends. But at this point, I didn't know him very well other than we went to the academy together. And I'm like, how are you doing that? And he put it very, I thought, eloquently. He's like, it's when I see three people walking down the street, I don't talk myself out of stopping them. If you have a reasonable suspicion that a crime's occurring or whatever. And I'm like, and I remember asking, like, what do you mean by that? It's like, I think we all have a tendency to, oh, they're probably just going to the store. Or, hey, you know what? They probably locked their keys in their car. They're not breaking into that car. But you're not wrong for stopping and checking. And because he did not talk himself out of what he thought was happening in front of him, and sometimes he was wrong. Sometimes, yeah, they did lock their keys in their car, but sometimes he'd go up there and they'd take off running because they were actually breaking into the car, and it would turn into something else.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really thought that was, I mean, it stuck with me. This was in 2003 when this happened. So that conversation when I was a brand new patrol officer, and it really stuck with me because I wanted to be better at making decisions and a better patrol cop. And it kind of followed me throughout my career. But I guess, why do we do that?
I think that's human nature. I think it's human nature to try to explain away that you're not really seeing what you're seeing or hearing what you're hearing, because that gives you a little bit more time to process, a little bit more time to make a decision. And watching that happen in this training scenario where there's no lives at stake, there's no, right, we're doing this to help prepare. It was such a peek into not only human behavior, but the very little time that first responders have to make a decision. There is no time to talk yourself out of it, but like you said, it is commonplace, and I think it's to give yourself a little bit more time to try to make the right decision,
Yeah,
right?
I don't think it comes from a place. I think you're spot on because it doesn't come from a place of, oh, this person's scared or doesn't want
Yes.
to work hard.
You're
It's
trying to make the right decision
yeah,
and give yourself more time to do it, but sometimes there's not that time. And in this scenario, there was not the luxury of that time,
yeah,
right? So, especially in like an active shooter scenario or in real life, there is not that luxury. And we've had a lot of discussions about just listening to your intuition the first time,
hmm
right?
yeah, your intuition, and I think brains are a funny thing, and I'm not a doctor, but I just going on personal experience, I think sometimes almost subconsciously you know what's happening in front of you
Mm-hmm.
before you know,
Yeah.
like before you consciously make that
Well,
decision.
that is human psychology, and we've talked about our friend Dr. Tamara Harold, who is a researcher and a an expert in crowd dynamics, and that is one thing that she talks about is, if you're in a crowd and you have, like, let's say an arena or a big event, and you have an emergency happen, people are not going to immediately get up and rush out. They're going to take time to think about and try to process what's happening in front of them. It's just human psychology is like, I need a minute. Our brains are, yes, they're way ahead, but it takes a minute for us to actually, okay, I've got to move. I got to do something.
When in policing and being a young patrol cop or even to a canine handler, um, when I thought like that cop that I worked with, when I thought like him, I would generally make the right decision, or I would generally make the right stops, or stop the right, intervene on a crime that's happening and not talk myself out of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a funny thing in the canine world. When you're working a dog, they call it change of behavior. So if you ever watch, honestly, my favorite cop show, and I generally don't like watching cop shows, but there's Live PD Canine Edition because
Mm-hmm.
my time in canine was my favorite time of my career, to be honest. And so I can watch people out working dogs, and you see the occasional bites, but what's happening? Most people think canines are used to bite people, but generally it's not. It's finding people. They have a nose way better than like humans. Like you walk by a trash can and you smell trash, and dog walks by a trash can and they smell the hamburger, the leftover hamburger, the tomatoes on the hamburger, the lettuce, the onions, the bun, the seasoning. Like that, their noses just work so much better than us. And so what you generally use them for is to find people that are hiding. Somebody runs, somebody hides, and I've seen it so many times with new handlers where you're going out searching and maybe it's really windy, odor comes off like in a cone, but if it's really windy, it's a really small like line almost, and the dog will walk by and it'll just be like a quick little head check and they keep going. And a lot of times like, oh, he probably just heard something or whatever. It's the same thing. It's just another example of it. Whereas when you get experience, you're like, oh, what was that? That was weird. We're gonna go back and check it out. And so many times when I did that, I'm finding someone hiding under a car or in a shed or something like that. But it's just that quick, like trusting yourself and not talking yourself and trusting that part of you, that whether it's intuition, your subconscious, all of that. If you're putting in the time to train and you have the experience, your first gut instinct is generally the right one.
Yes. And I feel like, okay, so in that scenario, had one of them been like, okay, we both think that's gunshots. Let's go do what we need to do. That would have gone way differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was the not trusting their intuition and then also being afraid of making the wrong decision.
Well, yeah, or looking dumb, or because so okay, we have a couple things, right? You're not listening, you're talking yourself out of it. But then there's I'm on that fence. I think it might be this. Then why not record it, talk about it, like like I did get on the radio. I think we're getting shot at right now. It sounds a little different than I had in the past. Um, because also there's that, you know, are you confident enough to say, hey, I may be wrong, but I think I hear gunshots over here.
Yeah.
Or I think I may be wrong, but whatever the scenario is. And then, you know, it's kind of a risk reward at that point. Like, okay, if I'm wrong, what happens? Oh, I could look, dumb, loss of status, whatever it is. But in reality, it's like, if you're just commenting, like, hey, I thought I heard gunshots.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're right, what happens? Lives will get saved, crimes will be stopped or whatever it is in law enforcement. And I do think that translates to, any other job or position. Obviously in law enforcement, we're talking about the extreme end, right? Like the life or death at times.
Well, yeah, but then in any other career path, that could be, ending your career if you follow your intuition, you speak up, you make a decision. Could be an unpopular one. It could, set you back from a promotion. I mean, yeah, it's not life or death, but there could be repercussions.
Life altering.
Yeah, for sure. And even as a parent, like the times that I have felt that something isn't right with our kids, there's times I've talked myself out of it. And then weeks later, when I find out, oh, this was going on, because we have teenagers. So, some of them are doing teenage
shenanigans.
Thank you. I was searching for a different word. But the times that I've had that intuition and I've not followed up on it and I've talked myself out of it, well, I could have prevented, more shenanigans from happening. Mm-hmm. But the times that I do listen to that, and I really have, most of the time I do listen to it. And the times that I listen to it are the times that we're able to get involved at the right moment. And my kids don't understand how they cannot lie. And well, first of all, most of them are really bad liars. One of them is not, which is truly scary. But it's because I'm listening to that intuition and not talking myself out of it. Mm-hmm. But it also, like on the flip side of that, in career, in work, there was a time where I did not listen to my intuition. And, I told myself, well, my boss said that this was okay, so I'm going to do this thing because I got to advocate for my people and my section. And I had the intuition that I should not make this move that I was going to make, even though my boss said to do it, even though I was like, I'm doing the right thing for my people. I'm going to go stand up. I'm going to go fight for them. And I had an intuition that I should not do that. And I did it anyway, partly because I wanted my people to know that I was going to go and I was going to fight for them. But I have this feeling like, don't do it. And I did it. And the repercussions were like 20-fold what they would have been if I would have just kept my mouth shut. So it works both ways. Like, sometimes your intuition is telling you to take action and sometimes not in policing. But sometimes in other careers, it's knowing when to stay quiet and knowing when to listen to that intuition to like hold off for a bit. Because that time, had I listened, I think the consequences for my section would not have been so bad.
No, absolutely. So it isn't just cops on the street that have to be concerned about that, right? Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, and we've talked about this in other parts of leadership and all that, is really just confidence. Confidence in yourself. That have been in a similar situation, trained, prepared myself mentally, taken the Josh Bitzko's police resiliency and critical incident mindset class. But I've done all these things. Okay, I have the confidence to take that risk. I'm going to be wrong, or I could be wrong. I might not be wrong, but if I don't do this thing, then lives are going to be lost.
So my question is, if you are a police officer or you're a person in business life that knows that you hesitate and you try to talk yourself out of decision making, what would be your advice? How do you move past that?
Well, the first thing that I would do is honestly, you have to learn to trust yourself, right? And I mentioned the book earlier. If that's you, I would suggest reading that Malcolm Gladwell's Blink, because it describes the processes and why you get there first. So, and that's part of learning to trust yourself, and then honestly come down to with some self-reflection as to, and we just did a podcast on perfection. So why do you not want to be wrong?
Yeah.
Because especially for me, saying in a tactical situation, you're going to debrief it after. I'm like, let's say, hey, I heard gunshots. And then they're debriefing, hey, there were no gunshots. I'm like, listen, I understand that, but I heard something, fellow. I heard something, and I wasn't going to not say it. And knowing for me, it's not wanting to be wrong is rooted in perfection. We have a whole podcast on it. So, having that honest self-reflection. And, honestly, the last thing is the more you train, the more expert in your field, whatever it is, the better you're going to be. And the more you're going to have that confidence and that ability to make those right decisions quick.
Well, and I think too, so for me, it's, I don't want to look stupid. Right. And I think too, especially in law enforcement, there's a culture of, if you get something wrong or you make a mistake, a lot of times the guys on your squad will make fun of you or, call you an idiot or whatever. And so then there's that fear of looking stupid. You don't want to hear it from everybody else. So I think too, it's understanding that might come along with it, with making a quick decision, with not second guessing yourself, but also you have the ability to then say, well, yeah, at least I made a decision, right? Might have been the wrong one, but I made one.
The worst thing you can do is make no decision at all. Yeah. And I think that's not just a law enforcement thing. I think that's leadership and across the board. So, yeah. Well, I thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, please share it with a friend, subscribe, leave a review if it's a good one. And I appreciate you spending time with us today.